This is Paul Rodriguez. P-Rod was one of the first skaters to be sponsored by Nike. For years, it was taboo for skaters to support Nike because it was the opposite of what skateboarding culture stood for. If you skated in the early 2000s, then you probably remember being shocked or maybe even downright angry when Nike SB ads started popping up in skateboard mags like Thrasher and Transworld. How did this happen? Why is this recognized as such a big cultural shift by both the sneaker world and skateboard culture? The truth is that during this era, skateboarding culture was hugely impacting sneaker sales. Skateboarding was finally reaching the mainstream after decades of being an underground, outcasted subculture. During this boom, iconic brands like DC Shoes, Etnies, Emerica, ES, and Osiris began to make a name for themselves in the industry. Nike wanted a piece of the pie and was desperately trying to secure a foothold within the lucrative skateboarding industry. Their first attempt at cracking the industry was a massive failure. Nike signed a young Bam Margera as its sole team skater and launched a collection of poorly designed skate shoes that not only resembled your mom's Skechers, but had three of the worst names Nike has ever cursed its footwear with: the Air Chode, the Air Snack, and the Shimp. I mean, look at these. It's no wonder skaters didn't embrace Nike's first efforts. Skateboarding culture was unfortunately misunderstood by Nike. Their soulless corporate image failed to resonate with the skateboard community. After multiple attempts and a failed TV ad campaign, it was becoming clear that it wasn't going to be easy for Nike to assert its dominance in the rapidly growing skate industry. In 2001, Nike hired Sandy Bodecker as head of Nike's skateboarding division. Bodecker would prove crucial to the success of Nike SB. He understood that Nike in fact had already been part of skateboarding heritage. Turns out, a handful of skaters from the late 80s and early 90s were already skating in classic Nike silhouettes. Pro skateboarders like Lance Mountain and the Bones Brigades famously wore blazers, and everyone from Mark Gonzalez to Steve Caballero skated in Jordan 1s. The reason skaters wore Nike shoes back then was because Nike basketball sneakers were cheaper to buy than skate shoes. They were super comfortable, durable, and most importantly had great board feel, something Nike would improve on in the years to come. Nike tasked Bodecker with rebuilding their crumbling skateboard division. Bodecker's solution was to do the exact opposite of what Nike had done for so many years. Instead of adopting the usual Nike model of trying to completely own the market, Bodecker's approach was to be a grassroots operation. Nike's new skate shoe line was to avoid mass production, generic releases, and would not distribute to corporate sports stores that skaters didn't care about. But what about a solid product that skaters could get behind? What shoe would Nike be selling? This is where Sandy Bodecker's genius came to surface. He argued that there was no reason to design a new shoe because influential skaters had already worn Nikes in the past. The design was already there, and the future lay in the company's history. Bodecker convinced Nike to overhaul the 80s basketball college sneaker, the Nike Dunk. First released in 1985, the Nike Dunk was designed by legendary Nike designer Peter Moore. The design closely resembled the Air Jordan 1. A lot of people don't know this, but both the Jordan 1 and the Nike Dunk were introduced the same year and designed by the same team. It makes sense that skaters used the Jordan 1 in the late 80s because the tech was basically the same as modern Dunks. What made the Nike Dunk design so special was not its tech, but its endless colorways. The shoe was actually brought to the market as a college basketball shoe. Nike was able to customize the silhouette to match the colors of each basketball team that Nike had partnerships with. To earn the trust of the skateboard world, Nike strategically recruited 4 underground skaters. The roster included Reese Forbes, Gino Lanucci, Richard Mulder, and Danny Supa. They became the face of Nike SB and each had their own signature dunk. Nike re-engineered the shoe to be optimal for skateboarding. A number of changes were made. Padding was added to the insole to reduce impact from skating, and the sole, originally designed for the hardwood basketball courts, was modified for better traction against skateboard grip tape. However, the biggest change in design was the shoe's tongue. Nike redesigned the tongue to have a thicker padding, which created the beloved fat tongue that was a staple of that era of skate shoes. With everything in place, Sandy Bodecker and the team at SB perfectly executed their game plan. It was simple: limited numbers, compelling stories, and strict distribution exclusive to select independent skate shops. Nike was finally supporting skater-owned shops and showing a commitment to the skateboard industry. This was crucial in gaining trust and acceptance from the skateboard world. These are the first 4 SB Dunks that became available to a limited number of skate shops. Nike SB's execution couldn't have been better. Dunks were finally on the feet of skaters, and word was spreading in the skateboard community that not only did these shoes perform well, but they also looked dope and had a story behind them. It was time for Nike to take their skateboarding division to the next level. They did this through thoughtful collaborations. Highly esteemed skate brands like Zoo York and Chocolate began agreeing to collaborate with Nike on dunk designs. At one point, Nike SB partnered with the underground skate shop Supreme. Way before the hype and way before campouts, together with Supreme Skate Shop, Nike released a very limited number of one of the most legendary dunks of all time. This was the first non-Jordan shoe to feature the iconic Nike elephant print. This was a huge turning point for Nike SB. Suddenly, the skate shop's customers weren't just skaters, they were sneakerheads too. By the mid-2000s, there was massive lines and campouts outside of skate shops to cop the latest release. Nike SB was in its most prolific stage, releasing dozens of colorways throughout the years, all of which had their own unique story. Here are some of our all-time favorites. They all had their own nicknames. Comment below if you owned any of these. The list includes the Heineken, the Bison, the Sharks, the Tiffany's, Hemp, Buck, the Jedis, the Hulk. The list goes on and on. It's important to understand that collabs outside of the skateboard industry were also a huge part of Nike SB's success. They collabed with clothing brands like Stussy and Levi's, legendary graffiti artist Futura, music acts like MF Doom, De La Soul, and the rock band Dinosaur Jr. The cross-promotion that came from these collabs together with the exclusivity of each release is what made the Nike Dunk the most collectible sneaker of its era. There are some people that argue that it even birthed modern-day sneaker culture with all the crazy campouts, hype, and resellers. Now, I can't make this video without briefly talking about Jeff Staple and Nike's tribute to New York City. This shoe's release was the absolute apex of Nike skateboarding. The hype for the shoe was so massive that it sparked a full-on riot. It's one of sneaker history's craziest moments, and that's why we're going to dedicate a whole other video to this shoe. As consumers' tastes shifted, the hype began to die down. The SB Dunk was no longer held in the same regard. Nike SB had grown exponentially over the decade, signing top pro skaters like Paul Rodriguez, Stefan Janowski, and Eric Koston, each who have all had their own signature pro model and have done incredibly well. Yes, it's true that Nike SB remains cemented in skateboard culture and continues to be a major influence, but sneakerheads became disinterested. Mainstream sneaker collectors and resellers began favoring Nike models such as the Air Max, anything with Flyknit tech, Huaraches, and Jordans. Well guys, now that the hype has died down, I'm sure there's some SB Dunk collectors who are happy about this. If you've ever collected SB Dunks, then leave a comment below. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to smash the like button, and please subscribe for some more dope content. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch our videos. It really means a lot, and we're so happy to be making this content for you guys. We'll see you guys next time.